We are officially live. Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome to another little exploration with Future of Work Live. I'm Hamza, and today I'm with April, my friend, and our guest for today, Christian. Hi, Christian and April.
Hello. I know we're just coming off another live. I'm really excited to get Christian um, as we try to explore unimagined possibilities. Hmm. Christian, what are you unimagining right now?
Well,
And
I'm
let's try to imagine it together.
let's do it. Let's do it. I love the just the framing of it. Thank you for hosting me, Hamza and April. And if I would say unimagined is just how about if there was a future of work where everybody was super excited and happy to go to work,
Hmm.
it was healthy, to be at work. It would be also something that's sustainable for everybody. So that everybody is fairly compensated. Um,
Amen.
yeah,
Oh.
pe- people have a healthy work-life balance as well.
Mhm.
Um, Lots of career opportunities and ways to develop themselves as people and bring in their talents. Um, you know, Collaborate with other people, grow together, and yeah, those are some
Hmm.
of the mind.
Yeah, there's so much there, and I think the fact that we have a great resignation indicates that a lot of that is missing. And then I know like Semco did a post yesterday for the 4th, right? May the 4th be with you.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, um, and around the great resignation, right? And it's something that I think that we'll probably be exploring there is that what have what have you seen on how people are uncovering how might they get those things, that joy, and all the other things you just listed, to look at work differently. Mm.
So, one of the things that I find fascinating is, that when people have a little bit, it seems like people have a little bit of a break, right? There's a disruptive event with COVID. Uh, um, Most of us stuck in home offices, right? While a lot of people that were essential actually just, they kept doing their jobs, and a lot of them took a risk. For example, work in grocery stores or work in factories, keeping the food chain going, keeping production going, and in manufacturing in the US, right? I feel like everybody kind of had a moment though to think about, hey, do I really need this, right? Uh,
Mhm.
do How much does my employer value my contributions? I found myself too. I think maybe all of us, right? We go to the store, or we went to a certain place and found people working there, and all of a sudden, I think before we just assumed that there was going to be somebody there, and I found myself appreciating people more for doing work, right? And to me, it was just personal. It was kind of a different way of looking at things. That nobody really has to do that, right?
Mhm.
Nobody really has to go to work. And so the fact for just people to show up and do their jobs and contribute to society, just um, I think made me appreciate everybody much more.
Mm. So what are your thoughts as you got, you know, back to it looks like a forever home with mom and dad, stranded. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, I think, it's hard for me to not make a reference to a conversation we were having last week around
yeah.
really what is the purpose of work. I think today in 2022, and the past several decades, it's been a means to an end in terms of the primary purpose has been to make money and make a livelihood from work. But I also really imagine a world every day where could we have a structure where people work not for money. Maybe there is universal basic income, but and really the reason people work is because it's a creative outlet. It's because it's a place where they are doing the best work of their lives, where they find meaning, where they find community, and that forms really the drivers behind engaging in any working relationship versus I have to do this begrudging work because it's kind of I have to do it. So and thinking about the Great Resignation, April, that you just mentioned, it's and where you responded, Christian. I wonder if that is something that is a moment in time in terms of is it just a sentiment in time that we're experiencing, or is it really more an inflection point for a broader revolution, so to speak, in terms of the worker and company, the worker and business relationship is fundamentally has been disrupted, and that psychological contract has changed, and it's really not more about what can you do for me when I'm hiring someone. It's not about what can you do for me, but rather it's a partnership and it's more communal in nature versus I have the bigger power dynamic in this as an organization and as a business. So I wonder what your thoughts would be in terms of that. Is it just a moment in time, or do you think we're onto something big here?
That's Christian.
Oh, yeah. I feel like there might be a fundamental shift at the moment. I think at least for a few years now, the power dynamics has shifted towards the employees or the people that have something to offer in terms of labor. I was at a conference last week with the for Society of Industrial and Organizational Psychology, and one of my colleagues, Samantha Morris from Northwestern Mutual, she made a really good comment that she felt now the aspects like remote work, or being able to work from home, or having flexible schedules, all that it used to be like a perk, right? Like we're people would get that if they maybe had a lot of seniority, or maybe they had a special job, and you throw this in as a bonus as an organization, right? Hey, you get this benefit, you get to work from home a day or two a week or something like that. And now her point was this turned from is more a hygiene factor. It's more of like a basic expectation where what do you mean I can't work from home? Or what do you mean I need to be there a certain time and certain days of the week? And so I feel like that shift has really changed. And I think, I don't know if you guys followed Apple with their going back to work policy. And I've been trying to write a little blog post about that. And I don't know if you've heard, but Apple has said, okay, we want everybody to come back, or most of the people come back. And first month you only have to come 1 day, and then the second month you got to come 2 days, and then the third month you got to come 3 days, right? And then there's still some flexibility, but it's like an approach where it's like, wow, this is we would assume that's a company where you get really creative work, I'm imagining, right? I'm very well compensated. You get to go to a beautiful office, right? I'm sure you have wonderful colleagues, and still people are upset about it. They don't. So, yeah.
Yeah. To me, I feel that there's a tone deaf, when people keep looking at and when some people want the past. We are working new ways, right? And some of this, like a lot of people were working remote beforehand. And then it just was an influx with many people. right? For knowledge workers. Um, but I see a tone deafness. I know people who were even okay with their role where they found a new job, right? Because the push to force them to come back to the office. It's not like businesses weren't successful. A lot of them made a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
They didn't have to pay all that electric bills or different things. Some people are rethinking and saying like, oh, we don't actually need buildings, right? It was more of like, why do we want this? Is it a control thing? Like, why do you want people in this physical space? And if some people want to be there, I know some people's like, oh, I kind of need, for them, they work where they want to be in the offices, and that's okay. But how do you make space for people who want to work differently, right? We may have different uses for the real resources, out there, like buildings, those are resources. But for people, they're trying to still treat people like resources instead of people. We
Right.
try to force them to behave a certain way. And and people have learned that about all the waste, right? The waste of being in the car. I remember when I used to uh, travel 90 minutes both ways to go to an office before. Would I ever do that again? No way. No way. Right? I remember when I was a frequent flyer, right? And traveled to out away from my home every week, away from my family. And I remember, I don't want to go back to that.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, when you were doing that, like these long commutes or the frequent flying, at that point in time, did you not like it already, or was it just kind of like, hey, that's what people do, and that's what I'm doing at this point in time, and it is what it is.
Um, I would say that what I thought, I understand certain things I wanted to do, right? And driven to do, right? And like the money, because it's more attractive, like for me to travel, 90 minutes both ways, I was getting paid a lot of money. For me to be on a plane every day, I was given a lot of money. And I decided that I don't care about that anymore, honestly.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of people I know who are flying. It's like I want to get married and have family and kids and stuff like that. I can't be on a plane all the people have different values. I'm like, oh, you know what? As a person of color and a woman, I was like, I don't want to be the lowest paid person in the room. So these are things I got to do to kind of strive, be successful, and that type of stuff. And I was driven, um, in that. But also, I wanted to do some amazing things in my career and stuff like that. It wasn't simply money related, but I took those things, I took a loss in certain areas, right, of my time away from different things to say, okay, this is how I can progress further and still meet some of my other goals, career goals, and enjoy what I'm doing and having. It's a great privilege to be in this space. It's a great privilege, and I love what I do. I've loved the work and different things like that. It wasn't a terrible roles or anything like that, but it was a sacrifice as well, a different type of sacrifice, a privileged sacrifice, that I just decided I didn't want anymore. That I was not going to make decisions based upon money, and that I can still do the things that I enjoy and love to do without being on a plane every day or traveling very far. And that I saw those as golden handcuffs, and I decided to take away those self-imposed golden handcuffs, and say that I can do without what I can do with less and be fine, honestly.
Yeah. I think that's another validation that really money is just another hygiene factor, right? Without it, in the current world, uh, there might be disappointment and dissatisfaction. but having outsized amounts of it necessarily doesn't need to engagement or joy or purpose or all of those things.
Mhm.
So yeah, and I'm really starting to see the tensions going to be progressively building up as more and more leaders choose to say, yes, we will be mandating return to work or back to the office in person, just pretending like the past 2 years didn't happen at all without that recognition. And I think that's unlearning that those mindsets. And again, I think it stems from that need to control, right? Like you were just saying. So I think unlearning that is going to be a transition for some organizations and for some people. And so, yeah, when I think about that and unimagined possibilities around the future of work, to me, I think a big part of that is around inclusiveness and inclusive decision making, where it's not about control, but rather what do the people want, really? And making decisions, organizational decisions based off of that. Um, so yeah, I think we're not there yet, but it's fun to imagine that at a scale, at very large scales, that is not a reality today.
Oh. So, Kristen, how are you helping companies reimagine work and what you're doing? I think you got frozen.
It looks like it.
Let's see. Yeah, you did. Oh, wow. So we lost him for a second. Maybe he'll come right back.
Yeah.
And Hamza, you're in the startup space, so we can just continue the conversation from there. Is that
Yeah.
how is working with startups, are you helping them reimagine instead of like, I'm starting up to be in these old ways of working? I don't know. I'll just call them old, but archaic ways of working. How are
Yeah.
you helping them not adapt those things?
It's so interesting given the diversified kind of work that I'm doing. One of them is in the space of like Web3, which is the like leapfrog into the future, and one of them is in like still like in what some people might call the future today, which is mostly like very involved tech. So I think in that scenario, it's been always marrying and balancing those. How do you speak to different audiences and resonate with them in terms of what we're building and having the same level of energy to match that? So I think it's been an interesting experience in shaping the future based on the point in journey that people are at today and how that's been going. And having said that, I see Christian is back. So Christian, welcome back.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
No, but share your thoughts though. If you remember where we were at? Do you
Christian, if you
remember
can,
where we were at? Did you freeze again, my friend?
I think we're back.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think I can hear you guys again.
Okay.
But you know what it reminds me of is something that with Semco, what Ricardo Semco said already.
Well,
Can you guys hear me all right?
yeah, you
Yes.
froze up for a moment.
Let's try it again here. So let's
And maybe,
say,
yeah, go ahead.
a
Oh, you keep freezing. Maybe we can just do your voice to get your last thoughts in, Kristen,
all right.
if you can hear us.
I can hear you guys. So, right, let's say you
Okay,
get a
that's better.
salesperson that says, right, salesperson says, I'm gonna sell my goal is to sell 20 widgets this week, right? And let's say Wednesday you already sell 20 widgets. Please go to the beach for the rest of the week. Don't sell more, because if you sell more, you're just gonna cause problems downstream. Right now, we gotta increase the production. We gotta organize additional shifts. Right, we gotta do all kinds of things that we're not really set up to do. So instead of doing that, just do what you said you're gonna do, and then take the day off to recuperate, and then potentially later down the road, maybe if you find out, hey, I can sell a lot more than 20 widgets, well, let's then think about it if we want to do more or not, right? But it's that overall attitude of just being mindful of more is not necessarily better, right? It's about balancing work life and the other life that people have, and you know in general be wiser and be more mindful about how do we want to live our lives, and why do we do things, right? I think that's one of the things that we do a lot, is reflecting why do we even do it.
So, as we kind of wrap up our conversation, I think that's a great point to look at. Why do we even do it? And bring that question next week. Explore that more at Future Work 24 Hours on.
Be there or be square, right?
All right. Hamza, you want to tell them we're live and all that type of thing, and close us down?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to continue this conversation. Same time. Next week, we will be at the Future of Work 24 Hours 2022 Global Unconference happening May 12th and 13th. So we're going to be, holding spaces across all time zones of the world. So, feel free to join anyone that works for you and deep dive into some of the topics that we touched on at a very surface level today. With diverse practitioners from around the world, whether agile, future of work, HR, work psychology, really all kinds of practitioners. There's going to be some divergent thinking and lots of creative energy, given our theme for this year, which is Unimagined Possibilities. So please join us. That's an open invitation that you will continue to hear from anyone you interact with in the Future of Work 24 Hours. We are currently live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and we hope to have more conversations in the coming week as well, leading up to the event. So thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you, Christian, for joining us as well. It was a delight having you chat with us briefly today. So having said that, again, April, my friend, always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure.
Yes. Hope you have a great rest of your day or evening, wherever you are. And have we'll see you later. Take care.
All right.